So, for those of you who are new or just need a refresher on the drill here, we are going to be recapping the episode before we dive into our typical discussion of it. We cut that recap out, host it separately for y'all's viewing convenience. So, if you find yourself just on the recap but want to hear our full thoughts, there will be a link down into the description below. But again, this is episode 30, I believe, called The Snake of Worlds Beyond Number. So, we pick up, right where we left off with this cliffhanger of Ursulon with Hyrule, Socorro, and Badze, and Socorro just literally decapitated Hyrule. Whilst at the same time, Badze starts to like grapple Ursulon. And we kick off with Brennan saying, "Hey, roll initiative." So Lou rolls, and he is first to act, but he has to first make a strength saving throw, and he fails. And Brendan describes that like Badze's chest has like literally opened up, and the way I'm picturing it is like her ribs are like reaching around Ursulon, like pulling him into her. And Ursulon fails that check, so he is getting pulled into her. She screams that we don't mean you any harm. Ursulon insight checks this, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still not feeling great about this,
Yeah,
given
I don't
everything
know.
that's going on."
I don't know about this.
And yeah, I don't know. He then uses his action to try and escape, which he fails again. So he's still just in Badze's clutches. Meanwhile, Socorro, Brendan describes as like releasing spores from his body, and he takes the body of Hyrule, which again is decapitated, and basically lunges with it into like the little hot spring where they were hanging out. And meanwhile, Hyrule's head is like screaming from underwater. I'm not sure if that's like death throes or if he's still somehow in there somehow, but that's what's going on. And then we swap scenes to Ame and the fox. And they're basically looking around the palace for other spirits that she could maybe talk to, or perhaps Neef, Indri's apprentice. But she doesn't find either of those things until the fox suddenly just takes off because he smells something. And Ame realizes that she's kind of in a part of the keep that she hasn't been to before, but it's like the main keep. But she kind of, or at least Brennan describes it as someplace you only really get to by aimlessly meandering. Um, and the fox runs up to this door where outside is like a bunch of food that's half eaten. I pictured it like room service at a hotel after you eat, you kind of place it outside. That's what it was. So the fox, of course, wants to chow down, but Ame knocks on the door and is like, "Hey, my fox is trying to get your food. You might want to like bring it in there." And the door cracks open, and Ame sees like one of the most beautiful people she's ever seen. A tall, slender. I actually don't know if we know the gender of this person. Do you recall?
I thought it was a man, but I actually don't know. I almost feel like Brennan was a little coy about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I may be misremembering.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember either, but we'll just use they them for now. So this beautiful person that is wearing like robes and also has these interesting tattoos. And Ame notices that they're clearly battling a cold, like sniffing, sneezing, that type of thing. And this person says, "Oh, like you're one of the four great witches." And Ame's like, "Four? What do you mean?" But kind of just lets that slide. And the stranger says, "Oh, sorry, I don't want to get you sick. My name is Tefmet." And Ame's like, "Well, hey, you know what? I can actually help with that. Like, I can help you with your cold." And Tefmet is cautious because Indri had told them to remain in their quarters until after the conclave was over. And Ame says, "No, it's fine. It's easy for me to help you." And so Ame then kind of invites herself in for the most part and starts to use her witchcraft and herbalism to craft like a quick tea to help Tefmet get better. And it instantly does. Like it instantly alleviates her symptoms. Ame is then like, "Hey, how'd you get to the North Pole?" And Tefmet's like, "Whoa, the North Pole? Like that's where we are?" And she has some sort of like magical device where clearly this was like a eureka moment for her and or them, and she walks over and like enters new coordinates and it's like, "Oh, the North Pole. Okay, this makes sense now." And she's like, "Yeah, I just got here via like a gate spell." And Ame is like, "Okay, yeah, well, I'm Ame, the Witch of the World's Heart, Rin's successor." And this conclave is actually about voting on my destruction. She just kind of trauma dumps, and Tefmet's like horrified at this. And Ame quickly picks up on the fact that Tefmet is a wizard, and she's like, "Hey, how come your name doesn't start with an S?" And the mood like instantly shifts, and Tefmet is like, "Why would I have an S name?" And Ame's like, "Oh, I just thought that's like how it worked." And Tefmet gets really awkward and nervous at this point. And Ame's like, hey, just so you know, I don't have any like direct ties or loyalty to the Citadel. And Tefmet's still like, you know what? Great meeting you. Thanks for helping me. And kind of like shoving her out of the room. And so she gets out of the room, door closes. But Ame says, like, she kind of knocks and whispers through the door, I have friends who are Antivalists too. And she rolls a really high deception. So the door creaks open, and Tefmet just says, congratulations on knowing Antivalists. Like, I hope nothing but the best for you, and closes the door again. At this point, we cut to Suvi, who is still in the Library of Stars, watching that memory of Hikea that we last saw her watch. The memory ends, and the little spider thing like finishes collecting it, along with all the memories of Yorin that Suvi had pulled up. And Suvi is trying to like remember what was in that memory of Ikea, and she like tries to emulate the language that she heard, which was the language of the spirits. And as soon as she does that, the spider like walks back up to her and starts playing that memory again, like as if it was like answering her call, kind of. So that excites Suvi, and meanwhile, the spider then goes back to the music box, and all the little scorpion things start returning to the music box as well. And as they do, the spider like disassembles them, puts them back into the music box, and then kind of like waits for Suvi's next order, if you will. And Suvi, seemingly kind of like done with business here, the spider taps on the box again. The music starts playing in reverse, and now all the rest of these scorpions start rushing up from inside all the wells they went into, and repeat the process. The spider disassembles the scorpions, puts them back in the box, and then finally disassembles itself, and like turns itself into like an emblem that's on the box. So Suvi is now left with one last problem, where she broke the knock spell on this door, so there's really no way for her to replicate that to make it seem as if no one was ever in here. So she ultimately gets this idea to bring out one of her ink demons, Vandal, and lets him out and basically says, hey, like, go crazy in the library. Don't break anything, but go nuts. And he starts spewing red ink and graffiti everywhere. And Suvi says, okay, now come down the hallway all the way back to my room and just go crazy the whole way. And also, you need to mark me, like, get me with the ink, write graffiti on me. And she's hoping that this will make it look like it was all Vandal of his own volition. And so after that's complete, Suvi starts kind of performatively cleaning up the hallway, in the hopes that somebody will, walk in and catch her, and she can explain like, oh, this happened. And so Brennan calls for a luck check for this plan of hers. And she actually rolls a 19, which is good. And just about this time, Indri walks into the hallway to see all of this. And I'll pass it to you for there.
Yeah, well, Indri, for all her composure, does not have it in this moment. She has Costa with her companion, and she also has Neef with her as well. And she is immediately furious. With this 19 luck check, we also have Ame, who's arriving. I think Brendan describes like this, like sort of like central tower almost, of like these three paths converging. And so the three of them these three parties all arrive at the exact same moment. Indri is immediately like, what is the meaning of this? What happened? What's going on? Ame is also like, dude, what did you do? And Brennan asks for a deception check, and already tells Aabria that, hey, there's three possible outcomes from this. So if you want the best possible outcome, here's what you need to roll. Ame has a very slight guidance, and we do in fact get that incredibly high deception roll. Aabria, by the way, mentions that she is grateful she finally got new dice. after all of the previous 2 arcs rolling terribly. So she has this amazing role, and she basically pretends like my ink demon got out. It just, slathered its ink everywhere. I'm so sorry. I can't believe it. And there is this great description from Brennan of Indri being so really like disturbed by Aabria's buffoonery, as he puts it, that surely this could not be a ploy to outwit her, and immediately trusts that this is in fact what happened. Still angry though, she asks, has the ink demon been rebottled? And Bria's like, yeah, or excuse me, Suvi's like, yes, it won't happen again. And Indri's like, okay, Neef, clean all this up. And she just angrily walks away. Brennan, by the way, above the board, mentions that if the middle outcome was that Indri would have been deceived, but Vandal would have been destroyed as a result, which didn't happen, thankfully. Ame is immediately like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And Suvi basically gives, they each sort of give like a data dump of what they've experienced in the most recent time since they left the dinner. First of all, Ame talks about this wizard that they encountered, most notably the comment around one of the 4 great witches, to which Suvi is like, is it possible Indri already like let slip the plan to this wizard? Like already like introduced the witches as the 4 great witches knowing that you'd be destroyed? To which Ame thinks, yeah, that's probably a good explanation. And then meanwhile, for Suvi explains that Hakea's wand is likely being kept in that tower that's part of the main keep that she saw in the distance when she saw the age-old memory of her ending this quest. Brennan also mentions that wands aren't really used much anymore. Most people use staves because they're easier to enchant. Which this certainly lines up with the fact that Hakea is as old as she is. They decide that they should probably go maybe investigate it, but before they do, they're like, hey, by the way, where's Ursulon? And fortunately, the fox is like, I know how to go find him. He's over at Hakea's grove. And they're like, all right, let's go find him. Surely nothing bad has happened. Which we then cut over to Ursulon, who is in the stomach in pure darkness. He struggles, has a strength check, I think a strength saving throw that I think he rolled only a 7. I think he needs new dice also. Strongest man in silver, yeah. He can't get over a 10 on strength checks. And struggles so much and for such a long period of time that eventually becomes sober. And then he opens his eyes and he's standing within a grove I think that Brennan describes of like white bark or almost like bone colored bark of some kind. And up the path of this grove is I can't remember if it was like a small cottage or like a small shed, but there's like an overhang and then like a well, and there is a figure standing at the well who Ursulon realizes this is the man in black. He approaches as the stranger in the night, reaches down and pulls out a bucket from the well, and offers Ursulon a drink, to which Ursulon obliges and is basically like, what's going on? And his first thought is, am I dead? Like, am I back in the spirit world? And the pilgrim under the stars basically says, hey, you're not dead. This is the place that Badze brought me to when I needed to lay low for a while after being part of a mission to kill someone, basically. To which Ursulon says, was that Grandmother Wren? And he admits that, yes, it was, and that he had failed in his mission. There's a bit more information, like big picture stuff that the pilgrim gives, notably that he's had a vision of a champion that was the son of a great bear, the great bear, who's presumably Ursulon. He mentions that when he smelled Ursulon, he knew that he was, in fact, the same character from his vision. And he offers to Ursulon a sword that he unbuckles from his hip, that falls to the ground. a sword that I think Brendan describes as being like wrapped in leathers of like black with like a silver scabbard, maybe. I can't remember, but basically describes as like pure moonlight is what it looks like. And the stranger says that according to this vision, the next time he picks up his sword, it won't bode well for him, maybe even implying maybe it would lead to his end. But he asks Ursulon on his behalf to pick up the sword and to become his champion. And basically says, like, there's going to be much sorrow if you don't do this. Ursulon asks, if I do this, will the two people in my care have to die, Ame and Suvi? To which the pilgrim says, yes, they will. Ursulon immediately drops the blade, says, I won't do this. The stranger of the night basically says, okay, then though we'll always be brothers, the next time we meet, we will meet as foes. But if you'll give me one last gesture of kindness, if you'll put the sword back up on my belt buckle, since I can't pick it up myself. To which Ursulon does. And as he does this, he has an insight check and he notices a pattern of chalices on the leather vest of this character, which he recognizes to be the same tattoo of the chalice that was on the back of the neck of Captain Imlis from episode 2, I believe. So a major callback from that. And I think that's where the episode ends. I can't remember if there's anything else. Okay, yeah. That's where episode 30 ends. The snake. And if you're watching just our recap, click the description link below to get our full discussion and also let us know what you thought as well.